videos keep coming, they keep getting cut off, and I'm noticing that shortcuts are popping up in areas of my desktop that I never used or opened shortcuts in. So I hope that helps. But with respect to the topic here in negative trust is a threat modeling situation that takes this particular ritual issue where the structure of the spirituality is based in repetition, something repeating over and over again, an intention thought that is verbalized, a scripting language that repeats its functions to attack different parts of a computer system, a network, a collection of people. It could be a number of things here that is forcing people's attention to gravitate toward the issue, to become distracted. Now, this type of thing actually activates inside of the human body because we are beacons, the same way that our vessels are beacons for, thought and almost like pre-psychic notions that people can pick up on almost energetically. Like if you're thinking something and someone picks up on it, it's almost like they'll kind of look at you. They'll feel like some sort of energetic impulse to look at you, or like they notice somehow. Um, which I've noticed especially since like 2013 on has been a very common thing. Something about a vibrational shift in the energy. This is something that can actually be harnessed because it means that like you and another person, whether or not you've actually spoken with one another, could be resonating on the same frequency of thought, of intuitive reasoning, of anything. And the way that people who practice malicious magic, baneful magic, use this to their advantage is they take the frequency that a person is on and try to drag it lower, because the space between where they once were vibrating energetically, like their protons, neutrons, and electrons in their body, their fluid in their body as a carriage system, all of these things resonate very crystallically to noises, to things that could impact like their mental state as they're kind of absorbing information. This is technically what energy is referring to in the first place. So when energy is interrupted, if a person is disrupted in something, which is another reason why it takes 20 minutes to recover from each distraction you experience during a day, look it up, it's true. This is something that ends up causing a spiritual disruption in their frequency as well. And this is why people throw magic to people's throat chakras to keep them quiet in a censorship sort of, illusory event, to prevent someone from speaking about something if they receive an intuitive message. The first thing that most warlocks and witches will go for is the throat chakra, because they don't actually want a person to be able to convey themselves in a way that is appealing to the people who could help them, especially with respect to a resolution for the problem that they are probably involved in or causing. So, another situation to pay attention to with respect to this is crown chakras. This goes back to chi, right? The discussion of chi. If you check that out in one of the previous videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. But the crown chakra is a person's social chakra, but it is also a very private chakra. It is the chakra that connects them subconsciously to the dream state. When a person is able to access downloads about what could be happening psychically, and this is for people who are especially psychically attuned, they get like gut feelings and it manifests as a vision or a smell or something, and then like they receive proof of this later on in the day or later within the week. Everyone works on a different time frame, but this is based on frequencies energetically, right? This could happen to them, and then as this is happening, it's sort of like these people will attack this specific area to harness what is supposed to be going to the person who is meant to receive them, to bend the chi to lead to them instead of the person who is rightful to the recipiency of this. This is an issue because this is technically done to inhibit a person's ability. Sorry if that didn't capture. It's done to inhibit a person's ability to use their intuition effectively. Now, the types of crown chakra, I guess you could say magic, that is done to people has to do with prohibiting their ability to help people most of the time, because a lot of warning messages that come through, especially to people who are truly of the psychic predisposition and have clairsentience, they're given these messages, and a lot of their struggle is actually working to figure out what they're supposed to do with this information. They know that it comes true, but it's not always easy to apply it without frequent points of reference reminding them, like, oh, this could be here, or this could be this, or something. So there are tools also that people use to effectively measure the calculated risk of applying the information, right? They use it usually for verification purposes, like cartomancy, tarot cards, specifically oracle cards and Lenormand cards are used for this, the way that Marie Lenormand advised Napoleon through not going up the mountain to argue with Hannibal or what have you. I say argue, but it was like a whole war, right? She advised Napoleon not to do it. He went anyway, and then the whole French battalion that he was with got conquered, right? So this is what we mean about verifications. You can look that up as well. Very interesting. She was one of the first psychic advisors, and she had a whole French deck named after her. So in addition to this bit of history, there is also something here where if people are truly psychic, they also have people who are watching their psychic gifts develop and try to stop that from happening. Now, with respect to technology, hackers will also do their best through repetition to send attacks through their own savvy, right? They'll send like messages like spam emails, phishing attacks, things like this, but they'll actually charge the messages with something called jinn. Do you know what this is? If you've never heard of jinn, jinn is something that a lot of people from the Muslim faith, may be aware of because of something called sihr, which is like actually black magic that roots itself in archaic Islam and archaic Judaism. It is actually a magic practice or a faith practice, most accurately, that was rooted in the shed of blood to appease the gods. And it's not only the shedding of blood, but what to appease the gods with in order to bend wills toward the favors, making them people who are looked at as chosen through their rites of sacrifice. Now, this is something that pre-exists, the Anno Domini, it pre-exists Christ and Christos. Christos was a differently applied term in the past, right? But what is very important to recognize is that a majority of the sihr and the use of jinn, which are like sprites, spirits, and other banned topics in traditional religions, because it's associated with demonology. This was all used to confuse people, to use confusion to purposely sabotage a person's self-control or sense of self-control. And it was done very strategically. It was done so that it couldn't be noticed as being done, because if a person noticed that a hex was being placed on them or that something was amiss in their energy, all of that would be sent back to the person who sent it. So there was a heavy, heavy focus on keeping these matters private to continue the illusion. Once the illusion is broken and once the purported confusion could be dismissed as solved or debunked or what have you, this is what actually prevented the magic from sticking. This is why they called it magic. They were like, what is this that's affecting my odds of anything I'm doing naturally? It is actually the secrecy that was the key to keeping these things effective and held over people. That's why in a lot of cases you call, an awakening something like someone coming out of a sleep. It's because the sleep is actually the secrecy of what's being done. So with respect to technology, you're dealing already with a very subconscious realm. Like if you've ever seen people posting on Facebook, for example, a lot of the things that they're posting about are all subconscious things that they want to bring forward into a manifestation. Even better, if you had ever been present online on AOL in like 1998, the stuff people said in IMs was almost like dream contact. It was like someone speaking directly from their subconscious. If someone had said those things out loud to you, if it was read like a script, people would be astonished at what it is that people really uncovered about themselves, as opposed to who they really were, what they presented as in person, and all other things pertinent to their physical presentation. This is why it was such an issue for young children online during that era who went into chat rooms and they were on the receiving end of all types of conversations that I'm sure that their parent, and I vouch as a person who was on the receiving end of a lot of this as a younger person, who would have never allowed any of those people near their children if they had known, online or otherwise. And let's be real, none of us used parental controls. We always bypassed them. It's what we did, right? But that was the state of affairs then. So, with respect to the subconscious realm being so thoroughly projected onto the internet as a reality, what you're entering when you enter the internet with respect to the scope and lens of negative trust is an entirely subconscious realm where things don't actually connect in any sensible way until they do. So, the navigation here with respect to people throwing energy is not only a spiritual thing, it's a tangible thing. It's an intellectual thing through messages. It's an emotional thing through the messages that create connections with people. People date online all the time and then they meet and sometimes they even get married. These are real concepts, literally being manifested from nothing but a subconscious realm. So, how do you identify a threat, right? When everything could theoretically be equal in its risk, especially as a measured factor. How do you factor what a risk really looks like until you're already in a risky situation? The way that I have noticed this can be calculated is if you notice that your intuition doesn't sit right with you the moment you log on, that's usually going to be an indicator that something is wrong. So, how do you hone your intuition? Naturally, through devout spiritual practices and spiritual hygiene. Spiritual hygiene is something I haven't covered here yet, but if you, for example, clear the entire board of your subconscious by meditating, by burning herbs like sage or palo santo, which is like a wooden smudge stick that you would just burn and kind of waft the smoke around of, you'll notice that there might feel like a shift in the energy. It starts to